everybody at the table.
Good evening, everyone. My name is John Gilchrist. I'm the president of the Stony Plain Chamber of Commerce. So first off, I'd like to welcome you all till tonight. It's a great turnout. We have our 6 candidates, which hopefully you've all had a chance to meet. I'm the chair for tonight's evening. I don't have to do a whole lot other than introduce a few people and then say goodbye at the end of the night. One thing I'd like you to do, though, I know I've heard a couple already, if we could turn our cell phones off, you know, maybe we could spend a couple hours without them and, you know, certainly focus on the issues that we're going to deal with tonight. I'd like to introduce 2 people as we get started. First, Scott Hawkins, who will be our moderator for tonight. So welcome, Scott. And also Pam Geddes, who will be our official timekeeper. Now on that note, I'd like to welcome Scott up to take over.
Thank you, John. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Candidates Forum. I am going to get this underway straight away. First, I'd like to introduce our candidates in alphabetical order. We have Arlen Bifford, representing the Alberta Liberal Party. have Matthew Burnett representing the Evergreen Party of Alberta.
Could you ask them to stand, please?
Okay, so there we go. That was Arlen's on the far end, and then that's Matthew. And we have Curtis Ewanchuk of the Alberta Party. Ken Lemke with the Progressive Conservative Party. Linda Robinson with the Alberta New Democrats. And Hal Tag with the Wild Rose Party. So with the format for this evening's program, all the candidates are going to get a chance to speak at the start. They each have 4 minutes. Our timekeeper is going to tightly enforce that timeline. We got a bell and everything. They've been drawn in, so they're going to come up in random order. Once that's over, we're going to have some questions from the floor, or there could be written questions. I'm assuming that, who's handing out the written questions? You can get written questions from Denise right there if you want to write one down and then give it back to her. With respect to the rules, questions received from the floor, and the answers will be limited to 2 minutes, and then we'll have a couple rebuttals from other members of the panel. So I would like to get this rolling by asking Arlen Bifford to start us off. You could have a few comments.
Are we standing?
Yeah, I would.
Stand and then pass the mic to
Sorry, is that pretty good? Good evening, my name is Arlen Bifford. As you know, I'm the Alberta Liberal candidate for the wonderful, I think it's Stony Plain.
Yeah, here you go.
Sorry, oh, there we go. Ha, that's way better. All right, so my name is Arlen Bifford. I'm the Alberta Liberal candidate for Stony Plain. I've been active in politics about 10 years now. I've served on several campaigns. This will be my 4th. Bill Fraser's was the last, of course. My professional experience is with drilling. I'm a geological core sampler and environmental impacts driller. So I would delineate geological formations and environmental impact from various different reasons, spills, chemical spills, different things like that. Sorry, usually the mic points down. Sorry about that. That's way better. Okay. I've traveled the 3 western provinces as well as the 2 northern territories in my professional experience as a driller. I don't know what else to tell you from that. I've been involved in several policy initiatives within the party, as well as I've served on several boards and committees in and around Stony Plain. I've been an active member of the community for more than 15 years now, and I'm fairly passionate about making some great changes in Alberta. Thank you.
Ken's next.
Can you hear me okay? Back there?
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Hawkins. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, fellow candidates. What a great crowd tonight, and it's really encouraging to see that so many people are engaged in the politics of the Stony Plain constituency. My name is Ken Lemke. I am the Progressive Conservative candidate for Stony Plain. For the past 16 years, I've had a job representing the people of Stony Plain on Town Council. In February, I resigned from that job to apply for a new one, to represent the people of the provincial Stony Plain constituency in the government of Alberta. I expect to do that as a member of the governing Progressive Conservative Party. My promise is to represent you to the government with all my strength and proven abilities. The decision you have to make on April 23rd is to decide which of these 6 people you want to represent you. One way to do that is to find out which candidate or which party best represents your views and issues that are important to you. There is no shortage of hot-button issues that you can base your decision on. On some of the issues, the parties are far apart. On some, the differences are small. And on some issues, finding out where they stand and how different they could be is almost impossible. One way you can decide on whether I am the best candidate is to look at what I've done over the past 16 years. Never mind what I say, What can you see? In other words, show me. Around you is a town that has grown at a brisk pace. We grew smartly, with homes perfect for renters or first-time buyers, as well as full-size family homes in beautiful subdivisions. There are roads to get you around. You see trails and parks and sports fields and facilities like the Tri-Leisure Center. You see a new fire hall, a town hall, a new high school, and Heritage Park Pavilion. Seniors facilities, commercial and industrial businesses. You see a waste management and recycling program that's designed for the future. Most importantly, you see a community. You see people that take pride in where they live. People who graciously welcome visitors through community celebrations such as the Alberta Winter Games, the Great White North Triathlon, Farmers' Day, and the Bluegrass Festival. A community whose taxes have not increased dramatically as population and demand for services has increased, or as old infrastructure has been replaced. And you see people who are satisfied with how their views have been presented to municipal government. What you see around you in Stony Plain is what you get from me as a representative. Not promises, not policies, not arguments, just responses and actions. Whether you're concerned with health care for you or your family, education policy, the environment, social issues, or economic development, I believe that I'm the person with the right experience, the right values, and the right attitude to represent you. I ask for your vote on April 23rd. Thank you very much.
Curtis is up next.
You want the podium, Curtis?
Yes, please. Hello, can you hear me? Greetings, everyone. Before I begin, I'd just like to take a moment to thank each and every one of you for being here. Thank you for acting as citizens, organizers, and candidates, and know that our democracy in this province would be a lot worse if it weren't for you being here today. I live and indeed grew up just to the north of Stony Plain here in the Aspen Parkland bioregion of this province. Since my post-secondary studies and my subsequent travels around North America and Central America, I've come back in Alberta to live and work and contribute to the transition towards a more mature and responsible human civilization in this corner of the world. Whether it be through my time as a volunteer director in a local nonprofit society or acting as a permaculturalist in designing and building sustainable human habitats, my dedication to the communities of which I am a part is evident and able. While I enjoy working my day job as a telecommunications tower technician and the view that it affords, I know that in the long term, my interests and my faculties lie in helping to govern our communities in this province and our nation better. I've been working with the Alberta Party since its inception 2 years ago, and I believe that its founding principles not only allow for genuine progress moving forward, but also resonate with the emerging consensus of Albertans that we have to do politics differently. We propose a principled stance to governance and a novel interaction with the citizenry, unique policy pursuits in the context of critical thinking about today's issues. Quality of life, democracy, sustainability, fiscal and social responsibility, as well as a pursuit of real prosperity for all Albertans over the long term is what we stand for. A sense of meaningful connection and discussion with fellow citizens is something that I really strive for in my day-to-day life, and a positivistic approach to the challenge we face in this 21st century is something that I'm very much interested in. Were I chosen to represent my fellow citizens, you, to represent our best interests as Albertans moving forward, my priorities, my top 3 priorities would be these: to build democratic engagement with my constituents and foster continual participation and policy recommendation through formal and informal means. I would also try and really strive to drive to diversify our economy and move towards regenerative approaches that meet our needs today without compromising the environment
and the ability of future generations to meet their needs tomorrow. And thirdly, and this is kind of an overarching theme of how I act and engage with my fellow citizens, is I would try, and I would definitely, in my own way, turn conventional politics downside up. What this means is that I would do everything possible to reverse the trend, to value finances first, people second, and ethics and the environment as a last concern. Once again, I just want to thank you all for being here tonight, and I look forward to your questions.
I think that's a little better. The ones after me may have to lower it a little bit, I'm sorry. My name is Hal Tagg. I'm the Wild Rose candidate for this Stony Plain constituency. And I first want to thank each and every one of you. Can you hear me well enough back there? I first want to thank each and every one of you for being here tonight. There's quite a few more people here than I thought would be here, especially given the main event is on TV tonight, I think, and many of you maybe want to be watching that tonight instead. But thank you for being here. As I've been out in the community for the last 3 or 4 months, knocking on doors, I've met some of you, many of you. I've seen and met you in your homes, and I've listened and understood some of the things that you value most. One of the things I think is important in being in politics is something that the school division has been teaching lately, and that is they talk a lot about these 7 habits by Stephen Covey. He wrote a book a number of years ago. I think many of you are familiar with that. One of the habits that they talk about and the school children are bringing home with them is one that says, seek first to understand and then seek to be understood. I think that whether we're talking about personal relationships or in this case government relationships, if a governing party is going to accomplish anything that is in accordance with the will of the people, they first need to seek to understand. I think that one of the qualities that I will bring to the table is I will be someone that listens and understands the things that people are bringing forth. I may not always agree with things that others are bringing forth, but I will seek to understand and find common ground where possible. My background is not in politics. I've never run for anything, in fact, not even student council. I've always followed politics, I've read about politics, I've been fairly aware of what's going on. My background is, I've got a degree in economics. Soon after I finished university, I realized that my passion lied in entrepreneurship, and I've started a number of different businesses, and in the past 7 years I've operated a mortgage company here in town, and I quite enjoy it. When asking why I would run, and sort of upset the I suppose good life that I had in return for politics, I've always known at some point in my life I would do something like this, and I have a desire to make a difference, and I think I can do it. One of the big reasons, though, that I've seen that needs changing is the financial situation in the province. I think that with the amount of money and particular resource revenues that we have, there's no reason why we should be running a deficit. And I think that's what kind of prompted me to kind of look at it a little further, but beyond that, there's so many other issues that I think that a Wild Rose government can improve on, and I can assist in that. Now, just to briefly, I know my time's just about up, but just to briefly touch on those, and I'm sure I'll have more time to talk about this in more detail later. I want to talk about the 5 points of the Wild Rose platform. The first one is the Balanced Budget Act. The second one is the Wild Rose Family Pack, which will assist families in providing for the needs of a family. We respect the value of families and children in our society. Number 3 is the Alberta Energy Dividend. And with that comes the understanding that the resources of Alberta belong to Albertans. We're not saying that we should give it all back, but we are saying that there should be a dividend to go back to Albertans and let the Albertans choose the way they want to spend that money. And I believe that Albertans can spend it better themselves than anybody else can. Number 4 is the patient wait times guarantee. And number 5 is the Alberta Accountability Act, and I hope to have some opportunities in the next few minutes or the next hour or two to talk further about those. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Linda Robinson. I'm the NDP candidate for Stony Plain. And I've lived in the Edmonton area all of my life. Currently, I live out in Enoch. I've been involved in politics for 30 plus years. This is the first time I've ran as a candidate, so it's been a real experience, and I'm glad to be here this evening, and I welcome all of you. So the central message of the NDP campaign is that Alberta's prosperity should and can work for the benefit of everyone, not just a small minority. To that end, our platform focuses on 5 key areas: providing quality public health care, education, electricity, oil sands prosperity, and protecting our environment. There has been a recent push to privatize healthcare and use tax dollars for private-for-profit companies. A lack of sustainable funding and poor management has weakened the healthcare system. The NDP would commit Alberta to the healthcare system that fulfills the principles of the Canada Health Act. Give seniors the healthcare they need and deserve by increasing the number of long-term care beds and increase funding for home care. As well, improving publicly funded, publicly delivered, and accountable health services will ensure all Albertans receive the health care they deserve. A lack of leadership has created uncertainty for school boards and families. Underfunding has led to larger class sizes, fewer teachers and support staff, longer rural busing, and a 4-year freeze on special needs funding for our most vulnerable students. The NDP would commit to long-term, predictable funding to support proper planning for school boards and end the use of tax dollars to fund private schools. As well, increased cost of post-secondary education is putting it out of reach for many Albertans. The NDP would develop a formula so future increases are fair, increase spaces at existing institutions, and support the creation of new facilities, particularly in rural areas and for the underrepresented populations, and focus research priority and funding on long-term innovative research, reversing the current trend for short-term applied technology. A decade of deregulated electricity has been costly for ordinary consumers and hugely profitable for the large utility companies. The NDP would make the Alberta Utilities Commission independent from industry with a mandate to protect consumers and ensure that the system is operating for the public good. Regulate electricity rates so that they are stable prices that are low as possible. Remove cabinet power to approve utility projects and make power corporations pay for transmission lines. It is time that all Albertans share the wealth generated by the oil sands. Currently, oil companies have been allowed to set their own rules. A fair return on the resources would result in better investment in public services for all Albertans. The NDP would develop a differential royalty system on bitumen and upgraded products that encourage value added in Alberta and require all new oil sands development to have plans for upgrading in Alberta. A long-term approach must be taken in all environmental decisions. For too long, the reporting on environmental concerns has been left in the hands of industry. The NDP would improve monitoring and enforcement by ensuring funding increases that keep pace with development. Protect land, plant, and animal life by expanding Alberta's network of parks and protected areas based on scientific conversation and goals from the UN targets. So altogether, these changes will make a big difference for all Albertans. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Matt Burnett, and I just moved to the area a short time ago, about 3 years ago, and I'm a plumber by trade, so politics is a far cry from my comfort zone, but I did feel that being a supporter of the Green movement, that constituents in this riding should have the right and the ability to vote Green if they so chose. So there's one specific topic that I wanted to discuss tonight, just quickly. I've observed that Albertans would like to be known as leaders of industry, fiscal policy, and social policy. In fact, our government has been failing us on all fronts in the way our environment is being treated. The proposal and approval of building new power transmission lines has been somewhat of a contentious issue, especially in this county, where we convert usable farmland into open pit mines for coal, and then burn this coal for electricity, which is one of the worst forms of pollution known to date. Our power consumption and the strain we put on the grid, of course, is the driving factor of this practice. And subsequently, our government and the Alberta Electric System Operator tells us that the only way to feed our consumption is the building of these new transmission lines, the substations. So, the feed-in tariff, which has been used in Ontario since 2006, and in Germany since 1990, and in many other places around the world. What it does, it allows consumers to, it creates an industry where consumers can introduce electricity on the grid and receive a larger portion back to subsidize cost that consumers initially put out for these wind farms, for example, solar panels, more specifically. So, in instituting a program, namely the feed-in tariff, we can ease the strain off our power grid, effectively making a shift away from our quote-unquote dirty power, propelling a leading industry in alternative energies, and making a solar and wind power collection more lucrative for consumers, putting money back into pockets of regular Albertans. And the Evergreen Party of Alberta is fighting for a better, sustainable future for all of us. So thank you very much.
All right, let's get down to it. We would now entertain some questions from the floor. If you could keep it to a question and not maybe a speech, that'd be fantastic. And by all means, come up to the microphone or, oh, here we go.
Good evening. I'm Carol Hogan, and my question tonight is for Mr. Tagg. Mr. Tagg, regarding the issue of conscience rights, what is your personal position on a government employee refusing essential services, providing essential services, according to either their ethical or personal beliefs?
Very good question. As you know, that issue has been in the news recently, and I think first and foremost, I think we need to understand, and I think most of us do, that that issue is a federal issue. It's not something that we can or want to change here. And the position of the Wild Rose Party is quite simple, that we will not be legislating on any moral issues, especially not any contentious moral issues. Those decisions have been made. Albertans and Canadians are quite happy with it, and I fully support that.
You know, you're right, this is a contentious issue, and certainly one that should concern all of Albertans. And I certainly believe that every Albertan should have the right to the same service as everyone else. Our country is founded on the principles of fairness and inclusiveness, and this certainly infringes on both of those.
I'm actually going to use this event.
Sure. Yeah.
I want to make sure you're able to hear me this time, so that's perfect. The legislation that was proposed, although as troubling as it is it did target specific groups of people, The unfortunate part about it was that it was so broad-reaching, and that didn't get into the media. It goes way beyond women's groups or gay rights activists. It attacks school children. This opens up to so many different public officials. Teachers could start refusing based on gender, based on race, based on sexual orientation, and a whole host of other areas. Paramedics would fall under this. The list goes on public services. In addition to that, I think the provincial government has a lot more better things to do than worry about homosexual rights and what a woman does with her, between her and her dog here. Thanks.
Let's have our next question.
This is a question to all of the candidates, a two-part question. The media reports have indicated that most parties are wanting to return control of the healthcare system back to local boards. If you do that, what are you going to do with the super board and the bloated bureaucracy in Edmonton? Secondly, how are you going to establish funding and maintenance of standards throughout the province if you dissolve the super board and turn everything back to local control? Thank you.
That's a super good question, and it gets at the root of where power should lie and how information and power should be transmitted from the citizens up to the government, from the government bureaucracies back to the end user or the consumer or the citizen. Generally, the Alberta Party takes a stance where we need all levels of government to be active. We can't wipe out local governance, whether it's a health board or whatnot, and then try to vest all the power in a centralized committee. It doesn't work. The Soviets proved that very, very well. At the same time, though, and the Alberta Party is behind moving the majority of control back to local health boards, we still have to have that the concept of subsidiarity, where most of the power rests locally, but you still have some bureaucrats and whatnot that are able to funnel information up the hierarchy and essentially transmit data and funding down.
Our position on that is that the problem centers around mismanagement. There is no long-term goals for healthcare in this province. What we do is, okay, well, local doesn't work, let's make a super board. Oh, that doesn't work, let's duck it. Oh, that doesn't work, let's get something else. We need a long-term plan for healthcare in this province so that we will be able to deliver the system that we need and that Albertans deserve. And we can do that by increasing the royalties. There isn't an expenditure problem in this province. The problem is with the revenue side of it. And even the current government's own report says that the royalty revenues are way too low. We increase revenue, we increase the royalties, that increases revenue, and that gives us the money that we need so that we can plan for a health care system that is going to be something that's workable. You know, we've wasted millions of dollars by jumping from one system to the next without any long-term plans.
That's a really great question, and I know that you're, pardon me, not old, ex-hospital administrator. And I think we need to talk to people like you. I don't have all the answers. This is a complex question, and it's going to take some complex answers. My position would be that I'd like to do some consultation with our constituents, talk to people like you who have had experience in the healthcare system, and try and determine which is best for our province, whether or not it should be a super board or a local board, or if there's some other hybrid system that's going to work. Thank you.
Can we ask those answering the questions to stand when they respond? Sure. It's very difficult from here to determine at times who's speaking.
Sure, all of them stand at the podium, I think. Mine's going to be fairly quick here. Our party's official position is to have locally elected health boards whilst maintaining the advantages of the super board, like an integrated health system, so that if you travel down to Calgary, you don't have to worry about taking all your health ID and things like that. It needs to be set up similar to like a school board, and this would ensure that every constituent would have a right and say in how their health care dollars are being spent. Thanks.
Again, very good question, because for the last 3 or 4 years since the super board has begun, since we reverted back to the super board, wait times have significantly increased. In the worst case scenario, we've had the cataract surgeries, for instance, since that time, increased 3 times. So I think it's, and not just for that reason, but many other reasons, I think it's painfully obvious that the super board isn't working. We do need to get rid of the super board and go back to locally managed boards. Somewhat different, however. In the past, we had smaller boards that managed 2 or 3 hospitals. That wasn't working either. What's good for Stony Plain may not work for Edson. What's good for Stony Plain may not work for the Stollery, for instance. So we do need local decision making. I don't see a conflict, though, with the local decision making, and yet also at the same time having standards set from the province. But we don't need a super board, a whole board, to set those standards. That can be done without having a super board. I do want to mention one thing, though, that I mean, we spend in Alberta more money per capita on healthcare than any other province, and I would say even beyond that than most other jurisdictions in the world. We spend a lot of money on healthcare, yet the results we're getting are definitely substandard. I don't think we have a revenue problem. There's plenty of money in the Treasury. We do have a spending problem, and it's become an addiction, and we need to stop it.
I'm living in this area since 1982 or 83, so it's nearly 30 years. And I have a question for the 2 front runners, Mr. Tack and Mr. Lemke. If I, as a citizen of this constituency, would have a question, if either one of you is elected and I write your letter to the legislature, how long would it take to get an answer? And how long would it take to get in touch with somebody I could talk to?
Good question. Obviously, I've never had this position before, so I can't tell you from experience. But I can tell you from those who know me know that I am very approachable. I'm not one that's going to be hiding. If an issue comes up, if I don't agree with you, I'm not just going to put it on the back burner. As far as exactly how much time it's going to take, that will depend partially on whether the legislature is sitting or not. Sometimes if the legislature is sitting, I expect that I'll be spending many hours a day at the legislature and not as much time dealing with the local issues during that period of time. Notwithstanding, though, I would expect my estimation would be 24 hours to get an email response. I would expect a letter would take a week to 2 weeks, my estimation.
Your word in the Lord's ear.
Mr. Hahn, thank you very much for the question. I can't give you a specific time. It would, of course, depend on the content of the letter and how much research I had to do to get the response back that made some sense. And so, but I can tell you this, my one promise that I'm going to make to this constituency is that I will be representing the people to the government and not the government to the people. So I would expect that if a letter was sent to me, we would get an initial response back very quickly and then do whatever research and get back to you just as quickly as possible.
I don't believe you. I sent to the town of Stony Plain on September 8, 2010, a letter against receipt from the front desk, and I have still to get an answer. So I counted this afternoon and pushed it in my hand calculator. That's 1.6 and some here. And if you're elected as a MLA and the same goes, you wouldn't answer before the next election.
Good evening. My question is for Mr. Lemke. Mr. Lemke, I've been a long-time political sciences student. One thing that's always fascinated me, political theories, well, more specifically political ideology. You were running for the Progressive Conservative Party. Now, in this province, we've traditionally been conservative. 43 years in power, that goes to show it. However, I'm looking at the policy proposals that Alison Redford has had and looking at recent years of the Progressive Conservatives. In a modern era, a conservative is defined as someone that is fiscally responsible.
Excuse me, sir. We get to the question, we don't need a speech, I don't think.
I would like to see if you can please identify what areas of the Progressive Conservative platform are deemed conservative. If you can give any reference to the following. The National Post headline following the last budget was Alberta's first NDP budget. The Globe and Mail called it Alberta flushes resource miracle down the toilet. The Calgary Sun headline was Return to the Spender. Today's editorial in the Toronto Sun was Redford's Progressive Conservatives are pseudo-liberals. So from my ideological stance, can you please identify the conservative policies of the Progressive Conservatives?
Thank you for the question. Your name again? Your name?
Jerry John Molnar.
Jerry, have you written me any letters lately?
No, sir.
Okay, I just wanted to qualify that. Jerry, your question is a good one, and certainly the principles of the Progressive Conservative Party have not changed over the years. The principles of fiscal responsibility, accountability to the electorate, and the pursuit of a dream that means that we try and leave our province in a better place for our grandchildren and children than what we found it. And certainly we live in a great country where anybody's entitled to their opinion, even newspapers. Thank you.
Second part, when it comes to fiscal spending, the current platform that Alison Redford has unveiled goes towards immediate spending of $3.4 billion. Where is this money coming from?
Well, again, thank you for the question, and that's certainly not Alison Redford's platform. The provincial budget was passed for 2012, and it shows a $1.7 billion deficit. The 3 point, whatever you're referring to, is long-term planning. Most of that is already covered in this current budget.
I guess for the rest of the evening, why don't we try and limit this to one question per questioner so that everybody gets a chance.
Can you hear me? Okay. My name's Moonstone, and I've been in this area since November 1st, 1979. That is permanent. Now, I have a question that any one of you may like to answer, or not, as you please. And it is about proportional representation. Now, I think everybody here knows that a long time ago, when it was basically a two-party system, results were fairly clear-cut and people accepted the will of the voters. But as we see the profusion that sits in front of us, we have 6 parties. There is a problem because an awful lot of people feel disenfranchised. And indeed, very often, the party that gets in, the person who gets in for that particular party, did not get the majority of the votes. So, I would like to know what your personal stance is, or your party's stance is, on proportional representation so that people would feel more like their vote really counted and like they wanted to come out to vote.
Okay, I'll start this off. Excuse me if I don't stand. I'm the only woman, so you should know that it's Linda speaking. Our position has always been that the first past the post system just doesn't work. It doesn't fairly represent what the voters have said when they go to the poll. and the New Democrats have always supported proportional representation.
That's a great question. I personally believe in moving towards a system of proportional representation. The Alberta Party is one of our primary mandates is the renewal of democracy in this province, and we want to do that however we can. Collaborative decision making is a really good way to do that. Something that I'm going to try to work towards following this election is setting up some sort of citizens communications advisory committee that hopefully the members here, the representatives here, can sit on, as well as having every available citizen that wants to come in and speak with whoever becomes the new MLA. Because that consistent communication back and forth, I think, is really going to help us to build our democracy and get more and more voices heard until we can, and during a new electoral system.
This is the last one.
Our party doesn't support a proportional representation, but I'm going to read straight out of the platform here for you.